Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's often controversial and complex: prostitution laws around the world. It's a subject that sparks heated debates, moral hand-wringing, and enough pearl-clutching to make a whole oyster farm blush. Now, we could spend hours dissecting the ethical and societal arguments surrounding sex work, and believe me, the urge to build a pillow fort out of those arguments and live in it forever is strong. But instead, we're taking a trip around the globe to explore the top 10 countries where prostitution in some form or another is actually legal. Buckle up, because we're about to navigate a legal landscape more varied than the Kama Sutra. And that's saying something. We'll be exploring the top 10 countries where prostitution is legal. First up on our world tour of legalized love is Germany, a country known for its efficiency in everything, including the sex trade. In 2002, they passed the Prostitution Act to make it safer and less exploitative. This act decriminalized prostitution, allowing sex workers to get employment contracts, pay taxes, and access health insurance. In Germany, you can be a sex worker with benefits. It's enough to make an American healthcare worker weep. There are still regulations and debates, but Germany is trying to protect its workers and remove the stigma. Next, we're off to the Netherlands, a land of canals and bicycles, and a surprisingly open-minded approach to sex work. You can't talk about legal prostitution without mentioning Amsterdam's red light district, where the windows are more informative than your average storefront. The Netherlands legalized prostitution in 2000, making it a social experiment ever since. The idea was to regulate it and make it safer. The Dutch model has sparked global conversations about sex work. The red light district is just one aspect. There are also brothels and escort services. Independent workers operate within the legal framework. Legalizing and regulating the industry gives workers more rights and protection. G'day mates, let's hop over to New Zealand, a land of stunning landscapes, sheep that outnumber people, and a surprisingly progressive approach to sex work. Back in 2003, they passed the Prostitution Reform Act, which essentially said, you know what, this whole pretending sex work doesn't exist thing isn't working. So they decriminalized it, allowing consenting adults to buy and sell sex without fear of prosecution. The idea was to reduce harm, improve working conditions, and give sex workers the same rights and protections as anyone else in any other line of work. And the results? Well, they've been pretty positive. Studies have shown that the law has actually made sex work safer in New Zealand, with increased condom use, better access to healthcare, and a decrease in violence against sex workers. It turns out that treating sex workers like, actual human beings with rights can have some pretty positive outcomes. Who would have thought? Chapter 4: Australia, a legal kangaroo court, but for prostitution. Let's head over to the land of kangaroos, koalas, and a legal system as straightforward as Australian rules football. Prostitution laws in Australia are a mixed bag. Each state has its own rules, making things confusing. New South Wales has decriminalised sex work, while Queensland allows brothels with no more than 2 rooms. It's Australian pragmatism clashing with, well, the opposite. Chapter 5: Switzerland. Neutral on everything except legal sex work. Next up, we're heading to Switzerland, a country known for its neutrality, its chocolate, and its surprisingly progressive stance on sex work. Prostitution has been legal in Switzerland since 1942, and they've got a pretty well-regulated system in place. Sex workers are required to register with the authorities, undergo regular health checks, and pay taxes, just like any other self-employed person. Now, some people might argue that requiring registration is a form of control or stigmatization, but the Swiss government sees it as a way to ensure the safety and well-being of both sex workers and their clients. It's all about harm reduction, folks. And let's be honest, if you're going to have a legal framework for sex work, wouldn't you rather it be run with the same efficiency and precision that the Swiss bring to watchmaking? Chapter 6: Greece, ancient history, modern laws. Let's journey to Greece, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and surprisingly modern prostitution laws. In Greece, sex work has been legal and regulated since 1999. Sex workers need to be licensed, undergo regular health checks, and work in registered brothels. Now, you might think that a country with such a long and storied history might have some, shall we say, traditional views on sexuality. But you'd be wrong. The Greek approach to regulating sex work is all about ensuring safety, reducing harm, and acknowledging that consenting adults should be free to make their own choices, even if those choices involve, getting paid for it. It's a surprisingly progressive stance for a country that's also known for its, shall we say, relaxed approach to timekeeping. Chapter 7. Hold on to your strudels, folks, because we're waltzing into Austria, a land of classical music, breathtaking scenery, and yes, legal prostitution. In Austria, selling sex is legal, but buying it is strictly verboten for anyone under 18. They've got a well-established system of licensed brothels, often called studios or saunas, which might seem a bit odd. But hey, whatever gets the job done, right? And before you ask, yes, the Austrians take their regulations seriously. They've got rules about everything from the size of the rooms to the availability of condoms. It's all very organized, very efficient, very Austrian. So, if you're ever in Vienna and you're looking for a little something extra to go with your Sacerdote, just remember there are legal and safe options available. Hold on to your frites, because we're about to delve into Belgium, a country known for its delicious food, charming medieval cities, and surprisingly progressive stance on sex work. You see, Belgium decided to decriminalize prostitution back in 1995, opting for a more, shall we say, laissez-faire approach. Now, this doesn't mean it's a complete free-for-all. There are still rules and regulations in place, but for the most part, the government treats sex work like any other business. There are taxes to be paid, licenses to be obtained, and health and safety standards to be met. It's all very civilized, really. Kind of like enjoying a Belgian waffle with a side of whipped cream and a sprinkle of powdered sugar. The Belgian model is all about harm reduction, individual freedom, and recognizing that consenting adults should be free to make their own choices, even if those choices involve, a bit of business. Hola, amigos, let's spice things up with a trip to Mexico, a country known for its vibrant culture, delicious food, and a somewhat complicated relationship with sex work. You see, in Mexico, prostitution laws are a bit like a plate of chilaquiles, a mix of different ingredients that can vary from region to region. In some states, like Baja California and Chiapas, prostitution is legal and regulated, with designated zones and mandatory health checks for workers. But in other states, it remains illegal and shrouded in secrecy, which, as we've seen time and time again, often makes things more dangerous for everyone involved. It's a classic example of Mexico's decentralized system, where states have a lot of autonomy when it comes to setting their own laws. And while it might seem confusing to outsiders, it reflects the diverse social and cultural landscape of this fascinating country. Last but not least, let's samba our way over to Brazil, a land of samba, sunshine, and a surprisingly open approach to sex work. Prostitution has been legal in Brazil since the 19th century, and while there are some regulations in place, it's generally a tolerated and even celebrated part of Brazilian culture. Now, before you book a one-way ticket to Rio, it's important to note that Brazil's relationship with sex work is complex and multifaceted. While it's legal, it's not always easy for sex workers, and there are still issues with exploitation, trafficking, and social stigma. But the fact that it's legal at least opens the door for dialogue, for harm reduction strategies, and for recognizing the humanity of sex workers. And in a country known for its vibrancy, its passion, and its celebration of life, that's a step in the right direction. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of 10 countries where prostitution, in some form or another, is legal. We've seen everything from Germany's highly regulated system to the Netherlands' more laissez-faire approach, from New Zealand's decriminalisation success story to Australia's legal patchwork quilt. The one thing that's clear is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to sex work. Each country has its own history, its own cultural context, and its own approach to regulating this complex and often controversial industry. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more content like this. Let us know in the comments what topics you'd like us to cover next.